Welcome to Reasonable Doubt, James Hopkins for the defense.
Welcome to Reasonable Doubt, James Hopkins for the defense. James Hopkins is a top-tier criminal defense attorney with over 30 years of experience in New York State and federal courts. A former ADA, he's tried hundreds of high-stakes cases from homicide, drug crimes, embezzlement, you name it, earning his spot among the top 100 trial lawyers. An expert in forensic DNA evidence and a fierce advocate, Hopkins delivers strategic, high-impact defense for every client. My name is Evan Mack, and in this episode, it will be defending the accused, insights from a New York criminal defense attorney. Mr. Hopkins, sir, welcome.
Thank you.
Was all that stuff good? Was that you? Have you done all these things?
Yes, I have. It's a function of getting older.
Welcome. Can you share a bit about that background and your journey that led you to become that criminal defense attorney, and what kind of made you who you are in this attorney at law?
Started off with kind of the standard pre-law undergraduate education. I was also a member of various athletic teams over the years, and I gravitated towards the competition aspect of trial law, and in particular, enjoy the criminal field. It's the basis for where all laws started. In a civil society, they started with proscribing certain criminal conduct, and I just felt drawn to it. So I had a strong English background and history background and writing background, and I found myself interested in the criminal field.
In your opinion, what makes criminal defense different from all other areas of law? What separates it?
It's a fairly stressful discipline in here. You have to think on your feet. You're in court quite a bit. You're presented with many different lifestyles, people from different economic backgrounds, different educational backgrounds, and you have to try to relate to them and understand the circumstances in which they found themselves. It's a constantly evolving experience for me, and the more experience I've gathered over the years, I think it's made me a better lawyer.
Mr. Hopkins, what kind of cases do you typically handle? Who are the clients that you often represent on a day-to-day?
It's really hard to predict. At any given day, I'll come into the office and the phone will ring and a whole new set of problems has been uncovered here. They run the gamut from your basic driving while intoxicated right up through to homicides and criminal conspiracies and all kinds of things that some are simple, some are complex, but all of them affect the client's future, so they're all important.
So what role does trust play between you and your clients? Does it matter, or are you just looking for the facts? Does your client have to trust you? Do you have to trust your client, in your opinion?
Trust is something that's very important between attorney and client. I need full disclosure of what's going on, and I need to know that I'm not going to be sandbagged if we go to trial. All of a sudden, there's some unknown fact that I can't prepare for. If I'm aware of it, I can structure defense in a way that will deal with the problems in a case. But you have to be candid with each other. And oftentimes, I'm a stranger to these people, and they don't necessarily want to expose their life secrets to me. But over the years, I've established my reputation as being a reliable individual, and I get a lot of referrals now from people who speak to that very issue. And so it's easier now to have people open up and discuss their situation candidly with me. But by the same token, there are certain restrictions on what I can and cannot bring forth in court, and you have to be confident that your attorney will protect your confidences and you'll be able to rely on his or her advice. I like to think that I fit that criteria.
Do you need to believe your client to defend them, Mr. Hopkins?
Whatever they tell me is the story is what I am bound to advocate. But if they're telling something that is factually disprovable, it certainly makes the job difficult.
Right.
Yes, I being candid is important. And I'm not suggesting that somebody has to walk in and plead guilty or admit the facts of the case, but usually most people are overcharged. They might have been involved in an incident, but it's not necessarily the one for which they have been charged. And it's important to delve into the elements of the particular crime and whether or not they fit the particular circumstance. And other times there's been misidentifications, or someone's been set up, or there are many different scenarios in here, and it's important to be able to understand the motivations behind somebody who might be stating that has been a crime visited on them, but actually has a motive to lie. So those are all things that we need to get into when we're discussing the case.
Can you share a moment from your career that kind of reminded you why the work you do matters?
I had a case back a number of years ago where a gentleman was charged with attempted murder. And
Wow.
he was alleged to have attacked his wife with a hammer, leaving her
Wow.
essentially brain dead. There were 5 children in the house. And we went to trial, and he was a gentleman who didn't have a lot of education, and he wasn't the most sophisticated person in the world. And after 36 hours of questioning by police, he concluded, I must have done it. Okay?
Wow.
In fact, he didn't do it, but that was enough to convict him. I spent the next 9 years getting him out of state prison, and then we spent another 10 years trying to get compensation for that false confession. And there has now been a lot of research on false confessions and the manipulation that the techniques that are used to obtain a confession. But at the time, that was a relatively new discipline, and we didn't have a lot of information on it. But he was exonerated, and I'll never forget that the first time I saw him out on the street, not behind bars, it was 9 years after we had met and hugged, and he was able to obtain a large settlement that now been put into a trust for his kids and done something to compensate him for all the time. But the 5 kids grew up without either parent.
Wow.
Mom had been attacked, as it turned out, by a stranger. And we
Wow.
found the stranger, and I had proof that he was the individual that had attacked them. It turns out that he's attacked others. He's now doing life imprisonment down in North Carolina for a crime he committed down there. But
Unbelievable.
it was satisfying, but also very frustrating over the years. So
Had to be. What's something people often misunderstand about the criminal justice system? How do you try to address it, especially when it comes to defense?
the typical cocktail party chatter is, how do you represent those guilty guys? And the simple fact is, as I said, most of my clients who are charged with something, they made a mistake. They might have been under the influence of intoxicants. They snapped after having family issues, or they might have a drug dependency. There's a lot of things that go into. Most people aren't inherently bad. Most people just make a mistake. And I like to think that I'm there to try to help them navigate that mistake and get around it. But most people don't commit the exact crime for which they are charged. Okay. And what I do is I try to knock it down to the elements. What are the elements of the particular crime? Somebody shoots another person, the person dies, but if they intended that death, then that's murder. If they were in the middle of a fight, an argument, and the gun went off, that may not be. It may be a manslaughter. It may be a reckless homicide. It may be a negligent homicide. Or if it was self-defense, it's not a crime at all. So it doesn't make any difference to the victim in that case. They're still dead. But the circumstances of how that death was caused, that's what my job is to focus on.
So what would you say separates you as a litigator, advocate for clients in your courtroom? What makes you you?
Well, I'm stubborn. I have a little tenacity when I represent my clients. I'm an old wrestler, and maybe it's something in my background, but I like going out there and it's just me against another litigator. And I try to advocate for my client the best I can. But just like in any match, unexpected things crop up, and you have to react to it. You have to react to it on the fly. And the more experience you have, obviously, the greater or the less of a surprise those things might be. But you still have to be able to keep up with current law. You have to have a little bit of understanding of psychology. You have to have a little bit of ability to try to relate to a jury is composed of many different people from different areas of society, and you're trying to have to relate to all of them. And so I like it. It's stressful, but I enjoy having to learn about the facts of the individual case and try to present them in a way that the jury will understand them and understand my client's background and motivation, and hopefully we accomplish something. Now, most cases don't go to trial. Most cases, as you probably know, are a plea bargain. And I have a good relationship with the prosecutors because I'm straightforward with them and I'm not trying to bluff them. But by the same token, they also know that if they've seen me in action for 30 plus years, and they know that if I say that that's an unacceptable offer and we're willing to go to trial, they know I'm not bluffing on that either. It lends to some candor that can accomplish good things short of trial, because there's usually some room to on these things. And if there's not, we'll take our chances at trial. So,
Absolutely. What are some of the most pressing issues or challenges facing the criminal justice system today in your mind? Like, how do you, as a professional, contribute to addressing them, if at all?
as a member of the Bar Association, we do have input into prospective laws. Things are changing rapidly right now, and it's the sheer number of cases does tend to overwhelm the system here. As a citizen, what I'm concerned about is the prevalence of violence in younger and younger defendants. And the drug involvement obviously has been a problem for a long time. Unfortunately, we have people that are experimenting with drugs and find out that there's fentanyl in something they thought was an innocuous substance in here. And next thing, I'm comforting their parents whose child just died of OD. And that's scary on many levels. But I try to the extent I can, I try to counsel people on life choices and try to get them out of that area and try to encourage them to get their education and get a job, stay out of trouble. I've been around long enough now that I've had people that were just young Turks who were always in trouble right now are now a little bit older and a little bit parents themselves. And it's nice to be able to sit back and work together with them and try to help others. That I've had some people who were in serious trouble that turned out to be great members of society right now, great parents, and it's satisfying.
Awesome. And finally, if you could give one piece of advice to someone that's being charged with a crime, what would it be? What would you say to them?
The easy answer is to call an attorney right away.
Oh, yeah.
There are oftentimes people think that they're helping out. They're trying to be as forthcoming as possible, and they oftentimes just speculate about things that come back to bite them. Even little things like, what the address is. You don't know what people are saying, what statements the police are acting on right now. But by just telling them what your address is, you have confirmed that is, that you have a relationship with that address. And I am not advocating stonewalling anybody, but you want to be able to do this in a way that is going to minimize your risk. As I said, I'm a former prosecutor. I've dealt with the police for my whole career. Again, I have a good relationship with most of them. If there's a warrant for arrest, I'm going to encourage my client to turn themselves in, and I'll accompany them. And it's usually beneficial to both sides by showing that you're willing to submit to the system. And here, the judges usually take that into account. It's something that prosecutors can take into account. And the police appreciate it too. They don't have to go chasing down some guy down the street. But I think actually getting an attorney involved as early as possible is usually the best course.
Awesome. Mr. Hopkins, sir, appreciate the time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. And thank you all for listening to Reasonable Doubt, James Hopkins for the defense. You can connect with James at jameshopkinslawfirm.com. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this information with anyone that might find it helpful. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.